So obviously you got a little stimulation from these little prongy things on the sole of the foot. With your eyes straight forward, like you're standing up nice and tall, I want you to just slowly go back and forth, bending one knee. So you're going to bend one knee, straighten one knee. And very slow, on an exhale, go ahead and lengthen the other leg down. So you're going to switch and exhale. A little sniff in and exhale. So we've got this basic rhythm, right? Taking the musculature to the end of its range of motion, pulling up on that quad, dropping the heel, and you go back and forth in grace, right? Something which has the beat of life, the beat of your exhales traveling in and out. Next level, because there's always an infinite number of levels of details. The more details you add in, the more benefit you receive.
Sure.
As you keep going, lift your toes. So you're going to shift from one side to the other, keeping the toes lifted. And as the toes elevate, you get more extension on the sole of the foot. The plantar fascia goes into more length, switching side to side on that breath rhythm. Yeah. So as you go back and forth, we're back to this idea of your own sort of unique, incurable mutant grace. I want you to feel back and forth how long you need to stay on one side before you've reached the end of that range of motion. And then when your instinct says, okay, I got that, then you shift. And then you shift. And as you keep that going, that's excellent. I want you to start to come up onto tiptoes. So you're going to go up. Yep. And then transfer. This heel's going to drop down. You bend the opposite knee. The toes lift. You go all the way down. You get to go up into the fullness of the greatest extension that ankle joint can handle. More. Oh, I got more faith in you. Up you go. Now you transfer other side. You can start to play with that a little bit faster. You're going to shift from side and up and down. Each time, getting the sense, yes, that Achilles is fully elongated. That's all I got. Pick it up a little faster. So you're going to speed up, and you're going to play with your weight a little bit. You got to drop up. And now we're cultivating something I would describe as elasticity. Different than stretch. Elasticity, a very different concept. This idea that the pulse, we're looking for the spring in that Achilles, as opposed to a flaccid, lengthened musculature. We're trying to cultivate resiliency, which is one of the greatest protective mechanisms you have against injury. And when you get to the end of your range of motion, you don't lock, but you pulse. You pulse. Yeah? Okay. And rest. Cool. Excellent. Well done. Elasticity.
My name is Emory M. Moore Jr., and this is Exercise and Movement Technique. And today I have the pleasure and honor to be here at Shen Tao Studio with Mr. Bill Hedberg. Thank you so much, who I've known for many years.
Old friends, very old friends.
And finally I get a chance to talk to you and about your work and share it with the rest of the folks. So, Shen Tao Studio, can you give me the exact location? Because I know where we are, but I don't know the address off the top of my head.
We're at 303 Park Avenue South, 3rd floor, looking down on 23rd Street, downtown Manhattan.
What a beautiful view it is from the inside.
It's really beautiful.
So, you do a lot of different things. When I met you, you introduced me to Gyrotonic, and this was many years ago. It was before it was called Gyrotonic. It was white collar yoga. I would say it's going back almost 30 years.
I don't want evidence or witnesses. Delete all that. Delete all that.
So, I know that you have had that as a body of work. What else do you do?
Well, pretty much everything that I studied in order to make the most out of this creature, I've repackaged in some way to pass on to other people.
Okay.
So there's a physiological level of it, which was deeply influenced by the founder of Gyrotonic, Juliu Horvath.
Okay.
That particular style, that circular pathway issue, the coordination and grace as a primary value. But I also heard this pure creature a lot dancing, and so body work became a large part of what I did.
Okay.
I was trained as a rolfer. I was trained in a couple of different styles.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Two primary mentors who've been in the tradition for probably 50, 60 years. The two of them. So this is a little bit like a Walgreens. It's a sort of, you can walk in and you tell me what you want, and we try to customize whatever we can for you.
I see.
Some people have
an upscale version of Walgreens.
with a lot more love. A lot more love, not the evening shift. So, you know, there are four different elements that each person has to cultivate to some degree at a given time, depending on whether you're a martial artist, you're a dancer, what you do. You know, some people, like the lady who was in here before you came in great pain. So the prerequisite was making the fibers open. So that was a combination of body work with very slow movement. But if your values were more about coordination or more about strength or more about what we call traction, space in the joints, we take on a different approach.
Do you have a lot of people who did you see with injuries?
I would say that the majority of people who have found their way to me feel blocked physiologically. They're in some degree of pain, either chronic or from an injury. And that's great, that's fantastic. I'm glad to offer that service. My fascination has a lot more to do with coordination. If you're going to excel at anything, martial arts especially, everything has to be like clockwork. It has to be organized and integrated as a single pulsing creature.
That's interesting.
That has everything to do with attention. How do you organize attention for grace?
Okay.
That's whether you're a football player, whether you're a martial artist, whether you're a dancer. Otherwise, you're fighting yourself. Your timing is off.
True, and you're fighting whatever it is you're interacting with.
Absolutely.
Well, it's interesting you keep bringing up grace, because I've always considered that to be a primary element of good movement, that you can tell from the texture of the movement, the
Absolutely.
quality of the texture, how, is it beneficial or not, in terms of just whether or not it's graceful. I don't know if I said that gracefully, but for instance, anything that we've seen that moves well generally looks like it has that grace and that symmetry and that connection to it, and that softness almost, that texture.
When I began as a dancer, I did not necessarily have the mental process to create grace in that movement. And the reason I mention that is I believe a lot of people have a limiting belief which suggests that some people are naturals.
Oh, yeah.
You're a natural martial artist, you're a natural dancer, and that's great. There are people...
Forget the 35 years plus work.
Well, there's that element of it too, but I believe there's a mental process of keeping track of your limbs and their either simultaneous or sequential arrival, which is teachable. I think the state of mind to create fluidity and coordination, you can do the 35 years of hopefully osmosing it somehow magically from your mentor. But it's 2013, and there have been a lot of what are called modeling or mapping skills that have come out of sports psychology and so forth, which suggests, all right, maybe you can organize the images in your mind this way. Maybe you can sing to yourself in the privacy of your own brain to keep the dynamics and the pulse of your motions or your strikes on the beat, so to speak. So there's a lot of layers in the work here. Some of it is the mental level.
Okay.
How do you keep track of your breath timing? How do you keep track of the simultaneous arrival of all body parts so that there's not a syncopation or a breaking in your own rhythm?
Okay.
But that depends on who comes.
So you're talking about an actual process of teaching someone how to access the elements of grace.
If that's their missing skill, absolutely.
I see.
The choreography, the material that's actually done on the equipment is very rhythmic, very circular, so you can practice.
I can't see yet, but I'm going to take a larger picture of the machines to kind of let everybody see, and I don't even like to call them machines in the sense that they're just mechanical, because I know you built them, and that to me is amazing in itself, and there's a craftsmanship and also a grace to the machines themselves. They're beautiful. You look at it and it's like, wow, I want to touch that, I want to do something with it. And that, is what things that you are using to move, in my opinion, should look like. A lot of the machines that you see sometimes in gyms, they don't look like human beings should really be moving on them, more like, we're going to strap you here and hurt you.
There are a couple of metaphors that are meant to be implied by the equipment. They're all rounded and soft and very tactile, and the wood finishes are meant to give a kind of sensuousness to the touch. The quality of the woodwork was meant to sort of suggest, if I'm willing to put this much work into the wood, maybe you can put that much work into this creature. There's a metaphor between muscle and trees, that growing, living woodwork.
So, what are the machines for? Because I know you do work without the machines. I know you do movement training in a lot of different forms. What compels you to make tools or machines?
There are two kinds of people, many kinds of people, but one way of breaking them down is that there are people who kind of make sense of their physiology in their own body, best in isolation, best just feeling themselves.
Okay.
There's another group of people who learn about this creature, you could say physically or emotionally or mentally, in relationship to another object, to another person. I learned best, I was a much better partner than I was a soloist. If you give me another body and you allow me to experience it and play with its weight and its resistance, I kind of feel myself, I kind of feel the other person.
Nice.
So the equipment is, in many ways, it's a biofeedback loop. For me, I can feel myself, but if you give me something which has weight and momentum and challenges the ends of my range of motion, the sensation is amplified. I can feel better. I can feel when I've arrived. I know precisely where my body is in space. The resistance also gives me the opportunity for strength building.
Sure.
And it's also got that, very traditional value of range of motion. If I've got weights attached to my arms or limbs and they glide me into the end of my range, I'm liable to go further than I might have just muscular control.
So you use them for traction and for actually facilitating flexibility as well as strength, which is unusual because most machines aren't so dual purposed in that normally a machine is set up for resistance. You're not thinking about using it for traction or for elongation. I mean, the antagonistic muscle group, sure, it will actually elongate because you're firing the bicep, for instance. The tricep is going to elongate, but that's really not a function of the machine per se. So you're saying that you're developing a machine to get long.
I don't need to be here. He's just summed it all up. That's it.
I'm just trying to,
The equipment's meant to be multi-purpose. I don't necessarily believe in one size fits all. You can use it for strength. You can use it for range of motion. You can use it for coordination. You can use it for traction.
And you can adapt them to different body types, I'm assuming.
Body types, personality types, and mood. Emotion. I have a lot of people, like anyone who's in personal training, you ask the student, the client, whatever you want to refer to them respectfully as, what would you like to work on today? And they will usually, my clients, I don't know about yours, they will immediately jump in that I want the killer ab series of death. I need my stronger core. And you go, great, and you look in their eyes and you can see they're either hungover or they got like 4 hours sleep, and you go, yeah, I know your brain wants that, but meanwhile back at the ranch,
you think you would.
What is this creature?
Exactly.
So any session, whether it's a group class or whether it's a private session, starts with an interview, starts with a query. Okay, that's what you want. What does your body feel like it needs? Does it feel like it needs openness, strength, coordination, space in the joints?
I like the fact that you're an observer. I mean, I think that's what the word personal training means.
Nice. Very nice.
Is
Absolutely.
that you pay attention to the student in front of you, right? The person in front of you, and as you say, there's two kinds of communication, right? You have what the person's telling you, and what their being is telling you, and somehow you have to make this symmetry happen.
Especially if you're looking at any sort of long-term training practice.
Yes.
If you want to kill yourself for
Good
2
point.
weeks, you can abuse yourself and put any kind of training on top of this creature.
Really good point.
If you want to train for 10 years, which is entry level to any kind of mastery, at some point this creature down here is going to have its cookies. It's going to have to be on his terms or her terms. And so I'm very fond of the phrase, when angry, train angry, when sad, train sad, when exhausted, train exhausted. Don't fight the rhythm. Right? William James, the philosopher, said there's a rider, there's a horse. To some degree, you got to do what the horse needs, right? Not what the rider says the horse needs. It's not the same.
Otherwise, you won't be riding long.
The horse will go.
You'll be walking.
To hell with you, man.